And we are back. Welcome to my channel, Get Legit LLC. For those of you who are new to the channel, we thank you for the support. And those of you who are returning, let's get into this discussion. As usual, you know, we review Love and Marriage Huntsville, but we also review it from the perspective as it relates to what can be learned from the particular episode. And so today we will be looking at the episode, the recent episode, and we will get into a discussion as it relates to marriage and business. What is the effect of couples who are in a relationship, who are married, and they're entrepreneurs, where maybe one is an entrepreneur and the other is a stay-at-home mom or dad, or both of them are working together? Is there any ramification of that? And I'm doing this discussion based on research. And because this case has this review is as it relates to Love and Marriage Huntsville, then what I will be discussing is as it relates to Huntsville in some regards, and as it relates to matters in different states as well. In particular, around the discussion of couples who are as well entrepreneurs. So let's get into it. As usual, this video is not legal opinion. It is not legal advice. It is not intended for anyone to consider it as legal advice. Okay, it's our reporting as it relates to our opinion or research on particular topics. Here, whatever copyrighted materials that we're using, if in this segment we're using any, as we say that it's being protected under the Fair Use Act of the Copyrights, Section 107, Copyrights Act 1976. And for those of you who believe we went beyond the fair use, please do communicate with us. Our email address is on the screen. For those of you who haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so. Our channel is growing slowly, but surely we are growing, and that is very much thanks to Ebony DBS, who reached out, who said that she's going to put my my information on her community page. Thank you so much for the support. And for those of you who want to engage in the conversation, please do comment, share, and do subscribe. Now let's get into it. For those of you who have already watched the season and those of you who haven't, this picture that I have on the screen is as it relates to the three husbands, or one ex-husband and two husbands from the cast, the core cast of Love and Marriage Huntsville, meet up to have a discussion. And among other things, they discuss as it relates to Martel's relationship with Sheree. At this point, I think everybody majority of people kind of realize that relationship is a fake relationship. And if it's not a fake relationship, it's like, we're tired of this kind of discussion. We're tired of the general men meet up, have a discussion, and the one question, is she the one? Is she the one? They kept asking Martel that. It's almost every time, is she the one? He was married to Mel, and in his mind, she was the one. And until he finds another Mel, I don't think he's going anywhere. But that's just my opinion. This is the core of the video that I want to discuss. I call it a rare glimpse because as much as it is Love and Marriage Huntsville, and the idea behind the show was to show us Black excellence, show us Black entrepreneurs, Black business people, we haven't seen much of that. But last week's episode, we did saw some of that. And so let's look at it, do an analysis of it, because hey, we watched it and we have our views. I want to first start off with this comment from Tisha. Tisha started off when in her confessional and said, after much preparation, today is the day I get to present my idea for the Black Expo. Now, one would think that perhaps there is an Expo in Huntsville, right? Well, quick research, short research. So far, I've seen that there have been several Black Business Expo in Huntsville, in Alabama, and these are a few of them. I wanted to give credit to these people, and I know there's others. I know there's also a Shop Black Fest as well, and several of this nature. So having her Tisha talk as it relates to the Blacker idea, I was hoping to see a different take on it and to see if the core group, not the combat group, but the persons who make up the combat group, to see how they were going to differentiate Tisha's idea. Well, basically from Tisha, how she was going to differentiate her Black Business Expo from other Black Business Expo, outside of just the fact that she would members of the combat crew being there discussing. Fairness to her, I believe it's at the embryonic stage, and so she hasn't even went that far. But some of the things that I saw and I want to discuss is, here you have a Black woman there to talk about Black Business Expo, and you would think she would have led by example and first of all appear at her own presentation, her own event early, and not just strolling after all the other members. And that, I think, is tacky. I think it says a lot and things that you should not want to do if you have a business, especially if you're doing a presentation where you're going to pitch this business idea. I think Tisha and her husband Marcel walking in late, knowing full well they're the organizers behind this, even though the fact that as she got in there, she was able to activate the computer system so that they could see the screen. That in itself tells you that, okay, they were prepared in that regard. However, walking in late at a function that you are, you're the person hosting, I think she should have been there early, in particular because she's there to talk about a Black Business Expo and a Black woman's idea for this Black Business Expo. The idea, like Melody noted, is a good idea. However, I would have liked to see some kind of dress. I mean, it's a beautiful blouse, beautiful top, but I think I would have wanted to see a professional look. I see the gentlemen, three husbands, three guys. Let me not say the three husbands. I'm going to get into problem with that. The three guys had their suits and tie. Marcel didn't have on a tie, even though he's the one pushing forward this idea of his wife's, because he did say that Black is the one sponsoring it. I think if you're going to go make a presentation, a business presentation of this nature, even though it's to your friends and colleagues, the fact that your friends showed up there with suit and tie showed you the respect that they give to you to come dressed in a particular way and not just show up there with maybe a shirt pants or any old dress. Melody and Kimmy dressed fine, but I just find the attire Tisha wear, though beautiful, I didn't think it was appropriate given the fact that she's coming at this event. It's her presentation to pitch the Black Business Expo. I think she should have shown us that level of discipline when it comes to first being there on time and second in terms of her attire. Remember, they would have known this thing is going to, this meeting would have been televised, and so on a national platform, and you show people the best. A lot of people are looking at it. So a lot of people maybe not in that space to say we're going to pitch an idea, or maybe want to pitch an idea, but say, okay, let me look at level marriage Huntsville and get an idea how to do it. So that was, to my mind, a missed opportunity. I think the discussion, Tisha not having talked out the issue as it relates to payment, perhaps because she sees them as just friends and not business colleague, could be one of the reasons perhaps why she went dressed the way she did, why she appeared late, as well as why it never crossed her mind as it relates to financing. It is, to my mind, a relevant question. If you're asking people to appear somewhere, business takes over. And surely we could see Melody had her mind on business. She wanted to know what's the fee, and she wasn't shy about it. And I think that is very much, it was very much called for. It is a discussion that needs to be had. And what it did, it kind of preempt to a certain extent the expo, because these are some of the things that people would want to know. You're having a business expo to educate, to lend to other people as it relates to the do's and don'ts. And so by example, I think Melody was able to show that as it relates to don't be shy. Don't be shy to ask for your fee. Don't be shy to say what you're worth. Don't be shy to say that I'm not going to do certain things for free. And so she was able to do that. I think also the discussion as it relates to posts, the price for posting. I never knew that you make money off posting stuff. And so even though this business expo, Black Business Expo, hasn't yet taken off ground, the fact that they were able to get into some of the business discussions that ordinarily you would have when you're negotiating adds to the story as it relates to the business expo. What I would have wanted to see though, and I think having now seen that there are other organizations, and while I have 4 here, and there's others in Alabama and around Huntsville that have that are engaging in Business Expo, Black Business Expo in particular. And so I think perhaps there could be some collaboration with these persons. You don't want it to seem as though Love and Marriage Huntsville is putting it forward that they are the ones who is coming up with this idea that there is no such Black Business Expo already in Huntsville. And I would like to think that Melody, I believe she was a part of the Chamber of Commerce there. She should have been in a position to shed some light on that. But perhaps that is coming up. I mean, we only saw the first part in the presentation, but I believe they already toasted to whatever they were toasting to. Because I mean, the whole thing ended and I still didn't know why they were toasting. But hey, people wanted to drink that black, and I hear it's good, so you can't fault them. I wanted to get into this part here. Look at Martel, all smiles, all admiring his ex-wife. And I think in that moment, we're able to see one of the reasons why he loves his wife, or loved Melody, or loves Melody, or can't get over Melody, because I think he likes that go-getter spirit of hers. Because even though he sat there, it was like, you know, watching her and so on. And I do believe if you do the research and you check, he came out some time ago and said that he started to charge for any interviews that he gave. I believe it was like $3,000 or $2,000, whatever the amount is. Could it be that he decided to charge for his interviews after this meeting to see how Melody was business savvy and how she charges for stuff and she doesn't do? I believe she does, because she seems to be a very giving person. But for as it relates to business, how she's on the ball, she's on the money. So I couldn't get past Martel's smile and talking to Maurice, asking him what's her fee, and Melody snapped back. So I just wanted to make reference to that. Again, the group meeting, you see the professionalism in Maurice, you see it in Marceau, even though he wasn't wearing a tie. You don't always have to wear a tie. Martel, the 2 females, Melody and Kimmy, they're just appropriate to me. I just wanted to know why Tisha decided to wear this outfit. But perhaps she decided that it's her idea, it's her event, she wanted the limelight on her, and what better way to go show up there in a bright outfit. But I think going forward, you wanted people to understand, if you in real life are doing this, then you would want to dress a certain way. And so I would have loved to see that aspect of it. So you start from the get-go in terms of the presentation, when you float your ideas and you try to get people on board with what you're agreeing to do. Here, Melody, always ever sharp, on the ball, on the money. Melody's there. She wasn't just there to cheers and toast. She was there to find out what is the business in relation to this, because it was a business meeting with the combat group, even though they say it's not the combat group. I wanted to have the discussion as it relates to Gino's discussion that he had with Marceau, his advice, his opinion as it relates to the interaction with the husband and the wife in business. And I find it very telling that Marceau was talking about wanting to shield his wife from the going-ons in the business, even though we've made to understand that Tisha has the majority shares, which means she, on paper, has a majority interest in this company, but in reality, she seems to have the minority information in regards to information. And so perhaps for the discussion, we'll see those 2 discussing what is happening, why these lawsuits are there. Or perhaps we're not going to see that. But I think the fact that Gino was honest, and I think perhaps having Gino on the show will be that kind of that breath of fresh air that we wanted, whereby somebody kind of like tell Marceau some of the ills that he has been doing. And getting into that, it brings me to Martel and Kenya on Atlanta, Housewives of Atlanta, where Kenya called him out and said some things to him, which I thought, and I think a lot of us thought, could have been something this cast on Love and Marriage Huntsville said to him, because even though you're friends with people or you're friends with him, you should be in a position where you can really tell him like it is, so he can understand how he's messing up his family before they would have reached the stage of divorce, but that never happened. So now I wanted to get into some statistics. And here I have entrepreneurship and marriage is not an easy route to navigate. I got this information. My source is the Business Woman Media, December 18, 2021. So let's see what this article says as it relates to entrepreneurship and marriage. It says there are 6 main reasons business owners have higher divorce rate than other demographic. And demographic we're talking about, I think specifically I looked as it relates to Black families, Black marriage, and so on. But it doesn't matter for the purpose of this, just other demographic. So let's get. It says one of the reasons is business takes attention, money conversations, and we've seen that. And bitterness. So I think for those of you who have watched Love and Marriage for a period of time, you would have seen all this entangled in different relationships. You would have seen it with Martin and Melody when they were married, when different scenes you would see Melody at the office working and Martin casually walked in and she's like, so what did you do today? Where have you been? And so on. So the business attention, and we've heard Martel's complaint, even though we know in some cases just a couple. But we've heard his complaint as it relates to he wasn't getting any attention. Perhaps it could have been because Melody was focused on the business. We've also seen Maurice and Kimmy, where Maurice, when he was talking to the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist told him it's like you have 2 wives. And so he had to make a decision as it relates to who do I put first. And then we come to Tisha and Marceau, where for whatever is going on there, Marceau is basically saying, my wife is in the dark. And so the stress and everything from the business, he needs to kind of share with her. We've seen, I believe it was season 4, where he took a trip to South Africa on his own and said that that was his way, basically de-stressing. And so from these 3 couples, we're able to get a glimpse into how these 6 issues, these 6 reasons that could create divorce among married couples who are in business together, they converge. So big takes because business becomes an all-consuming enterprise. So neglect is inevitable. Often the one not running the business is the one who is being neglected. Ding, 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 Martel, is that? So money conversations. It takes a lot of funding to run a business, and there are financial risks. According to some divorce entrepreneurs, the bone of contention lies in using family funds without discussing with the other party. Failure to see this as a topical discussion between you and your partner give rise to the money problems that lead to divorce. However, experts on divorce rate causes say the money factor only exacerbates existing marital problem the couple faces. Divergent goals. Partners are 2 different people from different backgrounds, that should be FRO, from different backgrounds. One partner is focused on doing what it takes to make the marriage work, but unfortunately, the entrepreneur may not do the same. So one is focused on positioning the business, which the other is not. So divergent views is the second issue. Here we see the discussion between these 2 gentlemen, Gino and Marceau, and we heard what Gino told Marceau as it relates to basically be open with your wife, operate your company, even though it's a small company in comparison to, I guess, the size, the numbers, it's big as it relates to the kind of contracts that they would get, the $1 million contracts that they would get. And so he's saying basically be transparent as it relates to your financials. Ensure that Tisha, who is the majority shareholder, has knowledge of what is happening so that anyone can come and look at their books and see that. So We have the third element, the third reason why marriage and entrepreneurship don't go together or leads to divorce is running a business is very stressful. Plus, when you add competition from other businesses in the same field, the risk assessment that entails in any business, market analysis, and advertising campaign that requires attention by the entrepreneur. So you're building a business, you're doing all these things, especially because you would most cases start small. You find that these things takes your time away, takes your attention. And so we've seen on the show where Tisha complained about taking trips alone with the kids. She alone with the kids doing things and Marcel not being there and Marcel talking about, well, he's trying to create generational wealth. So we're able to see the convergence of what happened in this report, what they're talking about, and what we've seen in reality on Love and Marriage, Huntsville. And the fifth and sixth is envy and bitterness. I think when we look at this, we could talk to a certain extent to Martel and to perhaps a little to Marcel. It says here the spouse entrepreneur often say the business becomes a third wheel in the marriage. Many also admitted ignoring these negative feelings in hopes of overcoming them, which doesn't always turn out right. Perhaps Martin and Melody, they're in this realm, and envy, I don't see Melody as being an envious person or being envy of anything, but it could more than likely be Martel. And I think we gathered that not because we want to beat up on Martel or being mean to him, but we've seen where after the divorce, Melody was able to bounce back quickly. Melody was able to carry on, open up her new businesses, and she's been successful. Whereas Martel is in a slump. So in the relationship where they were doing the entrepreneurship together, he would have been the one, perhaps until end, to become envy and bitter. And perhaps he is envy and bitter now because he can't seem to get a start. He can't seem to do something that's profitable, that's continuous. We see him doing the Ines wine, we see him doing the cookbook, we see him doing the calendar, but nothing seemed to have stick. And we also saw him doing the book. And so perhaps he's there, maybe he's not, and I'm judging him wrongfully, but I believe he is in this realm, and probably at the end of the marriage, he was in this realm as it relates to the next step. In particular, I think we saw a discussion where him and Melody, they were sitting down, dissolving the businesses, and he was talking to Melody as it relates to how he would have behaved with the financing, that when he has money, he would just leave it with her and she does what needs to be done. And Melody pointedly told him, well, this is because you trust me. And so we saw that discussion kind of give you an idea as it relates to the envy and the bitterness. However, it happens. I also wanted to say a study in the American Economics Journal states married women who reach the corporate pinnacle are twice as likely to be divorced 3 years after their promotion to CEO as compared to their male counterparts. Again, not as only when it comes to women who are in a relationship, a marriage, and they're in an entrepreneurship where they're the boss. They've also seen it where a woman who is at the top in her company, in a company where she's an employee, yes, but she's a top employee, she's a CEO. So statistics showing here, a research that 3 years after the position, because of the demands of that position, women more than men would get divorced. And so I decided to look at the divorce rate in America, and in particular when it comes to Alabama. And it says the current divorce rate in the US is 2.3 persons per 1,000 people. Overall, the rate of divorce in America is falling. Divorces amongst people aged 50 plus years are rising. So it seems as though the older people get, the more they just want to do their own thing. I guess to live a second life or maybe midlife crisis. Who knows? It says fewer couples choose to marry than pre-1990. The US divorce rate is the third highest in the world. There were among 630,000 divorces in the US in 2020. Most Americans who file for divorce do so between January and March. I believe on the show we saw Melody, she filed for divorce near the ending of March, April, something there. According to the CDC, the current divorce rate is just 2.3 per 1,000. However, only 45 states and the District of Columbia submitted enough data to be considered in this nationwide state. as Indiana, California, Hawaii, New Mexico, and Minnesota are not counted. There may be some variation in this figure. It goes on to say, in 2020, approximately 630,505 divorces were granted in America, meaning that around 1.27 million people divorced that year. The national divorce rates per year will likely continue to fall as this trend has been going strong for several decades. The lowest divorce rate by state occurs in Massachusetts and Louisiana, with rates of just 1.0 and 1.4 per 1,000 people. Conversely, the states with the highest divorce rates are Wyoming and Alabama, with 3.8 and 3.7 divorces per 1,000 people, respectively. Here, it gives you the mapping. It's not clear, but there is a mapping. And for those of you who would like to research further, the source is there, so you can research and see it. It says here the divorce rate in America in 2019 and 2020 was significantly lower than in 2009 and 2010. Despite a slight increase in 2010-2011, the overall divorce rate has fallen throughout the last decade. For adults aged between 40 to 49 years of age, it's 21 per 1,000 persons. In contrast, the divorce rate among adults aged 50 plus years is 10 in 1,000 persons. When comparing divorce rates by age group, it's clear that the older population tends to stick around much longer before choosing to leave an unhappy marriage. Although this age group's divorce rates have been on the uptake for the 25 years between 1990 and 2050. On the other hand, the same rate among the younger population have been declining. And that is it. Today's video as it relates to marriage and entrepreneurship, as it relates to the business, the Black Business Expo, as it relates to the attire, the appearing late, some of those things that I believe Love and Marriage Transfer could have shown us when it comes to preparation, showing up on time, and not give people the impression that because it's your event, it's okay to walk in there late, it's okay to not dress appropriately. So these are some of the things that I discussed in this review. I chose not to do a blow-by-blow account of what happened, what was said, but to take out the salient points to me, the things that impacted me, that I looked at and be like, I wonder why she decided to wear that yellow blouse or that lime green top. So there you have it. For those of you who like my content, please do subscribe to my channel, Get Legit LLC. Thank you for your support. And that would be it for today. Until next week, when another episode of Love and Marriage Transfer airs, we will do another recap of that show. For now, thank you and goodbye.